do you want to be a billionaire?
Like if you wash enough shoes, you become a billionaire by the time you're
I
35.
think so. When people say like billionaires should not exist, I want to believe that that's where they're coming from.
It makes no sense to me how someone who did not finish high school is saying a medical doctor from another country is taking his job. My worry or my problem again is that
Ask you questions. Do you guys believe billionaires should not exist?
Our topic today is actually quite interesting. It has to do with a lot of wealthy people and how the world views them. And now the shift has happened over the. I think from the time when I was younger, there was a lot of revere and a lot of respect and a lot of almost worshipping of really wealthy people. Whereas now it's almost a the way the society and the young generation see a lot of wealthy people is greed. Almost you can't be wealthy without being almost like an evil person. You know, but like to get that kind of wealth, and we're talking about your Musk type of wealth, your like all of your billionaires, and and
Like
it's
billionaire
almost like
no,
status.
it's
yeah,
getting
like
to the point, yeah, where being a billion, like there are people who say the world shouldn't have billionaires. That's we are even getting to that point
yeah,
where like why are they
yeah.
billionaires?
It's
And
almost the
some people
rich
celebrate when a
type of
billionaire dies
philosophy.
horribly. Yeah, yeah. So we've moved to
It
that. So
complement it. I think it
yeah,
yeah. And I just thought it was interesting how like that shift in itself, like what opened up people's eyes in my way. I think that's more fascinating than the actual um, phenomenon itself. I think what caused that shift in itself is what I find the most fascinating. Is obviously like coming into the 21st century and our time now, there's now a lot more people coming out and just talking about their experiences in all of this with these wealthy people. There's more platform for people to talk, and it's also the way the world is, right? Before, if something is going on with the government, right, people just if people just blatantly blame the government. Right now, people now are not looking for who benefits from tragedies or who benefit from wars, who benefit from situations going on. And people no longer hide behind corporations as much. It's like corporations these days have a face. You get my point? Like if you're looking at a Fortune 500 company, there's a CEO attached to it. It's not just like back then you won't easily be able to know who the CEO is unless even on the newspaper they don't really show
Yeah.
up. Like you can easily find out for most companies you can find out who owns the shares to this company, who are the real power makers or you get my point. So I just find that interesting.
I also think I think it's also a fact. If one factor, not the factor, but a factor is that before it took time to become a billionaire. It could take 20, 30, 40 years. People were they are older when they became billionaires. Now with tech, we just had that boom, and people just in a year or 2 years, there's that very quick shift from normal to boom billionaire, and I think that's easy to build up resentment.
But I don't think
Can I
people
ask a
really resent
question?
new rich
Do
though.
you guys
Go on.
can I ask a question? Do you guys believe billionaires should not exist? I think we should start
Oh,
there.
Okay.
that's an interesting one.
For me, if you are a problem solver, and yeah, it's not like you are not you are not breaking any laws, whether moral. Okay,
But can
maybe
I
you're
ask you a
breaking moral
question?
laws. I don't know, but you're not breaking any laws. So sure,
Can I ask you a question? Are
yeah.
billionaires really problem solvers or capitalization of problem solvers? Because when I think about it, right, when any Elon's company introduces something to the market, a lot of the praises go to Elon. Like again, I'm not disputing like he didn't have any contribution to it, but the way people talk about it, they talk about it like he's the one who physically did the engineering to make these things work. Talk about how genius
it
he is.
doesn't matter.
Wait,
Ayo.
wait. It does matter.
For me,
For you, it might not matter. I'm
Can
saying
I say
it matters
why?
to me, and how is
no,
they talk
it's
about
not just
it.
an
Be
opinion.
patient. Let me finish.
Okay.
No, let me finish, because the way I see it is, when I think about it, right, I think about it in the perspective of young people that I see online, and how they consume stuff that Elon kind of says, or all of this, like, you know, they are impressive forms of billionaires, right? Like, it's a thing of Elon probably got to where he is by doing something. Like, it wasn't like, and Elon was not the kind of person that was born into like a super rich family. I'm sure his family was comfortable. I don't know the history of it, but it wasn't like he was raised with like old money.
It was.
No.
Family owns an emerald mine.
His dad had a mine. So
Okay.
He is not
See?
poor.
See?
Definitely not poor.
He wasn't
class.
poor.
Maybe
but
not. Maybe
I don't
not
think his dad was
but
top 200 wealthiest people in the
poor.
world. So he clearly made something of himself. Like, again, I'm not saying that he doesn't have help. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying, like, when people talk about it, right? Like, when they talk about like the AI from his company, for example, talk about how Elon made AI that is better than the one from OpenAI. But Elon really didn't make AI. Like, he instructed a bunch of engineers to make AI. Like there's this gap that seems to be missing in the way
I
these
get
people
you.
tend to talk about wealthy people. For me,
But the thing is this: there's the person who is taking the risk, the person who is taking their money to invest, the person who is the face of it. If it fails, nobody's talking to the engineer in Grok saying, "Oh, you failed." No, it is him that failed, right? So if the loss is the one bearing it, we should at least give him
Fair,
credit
but-
when he wins. Do you get my point?
no. Okay, I agree with
He's
you
the one
only to a
paying
certain
these guys.
extent.
He's the one. He's not the one
I-
doing it. He's not the smartest person who is sitting down and coding, right? Which is sad, because why I'm saying it's sad is because remember that whole thing where he wants to prove he's the best, and he was paying someone to play a game for him, and he wanted to just show that he's
stupid.
that was just stupid, right? Like, you
Okay.
don't need that.
Okay,
But
let me say this now.
But you get my point. If
I
you are
agree
the face
with
of
you,
it,
but
you are the one
I get your
investing
point.
money. You are the one bearing the biggest risk. You get the big reward.
I get your point, but my issue with it is a situation where other people don't get that same credit. Does that make sense? In a way, Elon.
But
the thing
but
is,
Ayo, that's what. Go on.
like, for me, right? Like, when you see
Go on.
other people, like, let's say somebody like, let's say a billionaire invest in a company, right? His source of like the way he made his money wasn't from tech, but he invested into this particular product. He isn't seen as the person who created it. As much, again, Elon is a thing of, I don't have an issue with people praising him, because when you put, like you said, you put your money into it, and if it fails, you get the repercussion of it. By the way, everybody gets the repercussion. If it fails, the engineers get fired and they also lose their job. So it's not like it's not like people, there's no repercussion for the creators as well. But it's a thing of, like, is the way people talk about it, like he created it, whereas other people that also invested their money in this particular thing doesn't get the same reverence as it is. Like, he gets the cool tag as well as being wealthy in a way. Does that kind of make sense? Oh, by the way, to answer this question.
Yeah, we get that, but I still need you
To answer this question. I'm about to answer. Yeah, I'm about to answer
the
you.
question.
I don't really have an issue with people being billionaires, and I don't have an issue with how they necessarily make their money. That's not really a problem. I think people should always have things to aspire for. I do not think there should be limits on how much money a person can make. Is it necessarily a good thing? No. Probably would it be better for the society if there are no billionaires? Yes, but also I feel like when you take something away, you are limiting. There's a limit that you are creating by taking that away. Human greed has led us to achieving so much in a way where I do not think that if you put a limit on that particular amount of greed, there will be so much innovation in a way. like I said, innovation comes from necessity, and greed creates necessity in a way. So that's where I stand on that.
That's fair. So I asked that question. I asked that question because I remember we had a debate about this in one of my classes where there was a graph that showed the difference between the top 1% in the US and the rest of the country. And no, I think on the bottom 10% or something weird like that. And in this graph, the way it was presented, it was like the bottom 10% are the people who are doing work at organizations owned by the top 1%. And it was so bad when you look at the difference, like when you start from 1980, for example, the difference in pay between, say, for example, a CEO and someone who was working the shift in that company was, I think, maybe around, I can't remember the exact number, so I don't want to put numbers out there, but let's just assume
It's
it was like
gotten wider.
15 to 1. And then you keep going, and I think it got to like 2021, and it was like the people who were in the bottom 10% were even earning less than zero compared to the top 1%. And I just read an article recently that said that CEO pay outpaced their workers by 630 times. 600, like, think about it, 630 times the person doing the work on the ground. And it made me start wondering about that discussion we had in class where the professor was basically explaining that the reason people are able to become billionaires, at least some people, is that they exploit means of production. So for example, let's use South Africa, let's use someone like Elon Musk's family as an example. They are not they were not originally born in South Africa, right? Like they're not natives of the land, if you catch my
Yeah.
drift. Like I'm talking about like their whole lineage. They moved there. And because of apartheid, they were able to seize certain things and assets. So for example, being able to own a mine in a country that your, I don't know, great 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 grandfather was not born in. You own the mine, you start producing emeralds, you've sort of you've taken advantage of a means of production that starts to bring profit to you. You employ people, and the capitalist argument is that those people, because of you, they now have a way of making a living. So that's
Yeah.
the good side of it. But the bad side of it is also that you've taken over this means of production and you can accrue as much wealth as you want to yourself. Now, in some places, they don't tax billionaires, right? Like you can be a billionaire and not pay tax. So it means that you get to take advantage of this means of production. You might be paying the people that work for you poorly. I'm not saying that that's what they did, but I'm saying, like, as an example, you might be doing that, and you owe nothing to the society. Like you don't pay anything in
You're
terms
not
of
giving back.
taxes. So you get to live a life where, where you're not required to give anything back. You're not really held accountable for how you treat the people, because if labor laws are poor, then those people are just poorly treated, and you just get to live. I think so. When people say like billionaires should not exist, I want to believe that that's where they're coming from. I don't have a personal stance on it because I feel like I get both sides. In some cases, if that person did not start that business, many people would not have means
That
of
means of
earning
living.
money and
Yeah.
would rely heavily on the government. Yeah, but at the same time, I'm also like there needs to be some accountability and labor protection for the people who work in these places. So I'm not really sure, but I just thought it was an
I
interesting
think
thing for us to delve
I
into.
agree.
I do.
What I picked up from what you said, Demi, was that the ratio between the 1% and the 10%, why it's gotten wider, is whether for good or for bad, there's been a shift in belief where that we think the smartest person is the most deserving person. The person we perceive to be the smartest person is is the
Aha.
person who deserves the best.
Yeah.
And
Back to
even
my
if you're
argument.
hardworking,
Yeah.
it's not. It's so the idea of just that hardworking back in the days, hard work was, at least there was still some, let me use the word, respect given to it. Now
Proportional.
it's
Proportional.
smart. Like you have to.
It's
Also-
considered dumb, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Working hard
Also-
now or being a hard worker and carry is not considered smart. Maybe AI will level that ground now because maybe they are saying the next 20 years we should go and be plumber. But that's not good.
Can I say something? Can I say something?
But yeah,
Right? Also, like that, and that's what I was referring to when I said I do not like the way people treat like wealthy people, like not wealthy people, not all wealthy people receive this type of almost smart because he's so smart he should be making all of this money. Why are you people complaining? Because whenever you see those posts online about how much these people are earning and how much these people are making, especially like your tech people from the tech industry, you get all of the other Elon supporters in the comment chat telling you it's because he's so smart. Look at how much things he created, and that's why I was like, people, I don't like that kind of tag that comes along with it that Bella mentioned. But also, I think all of this comes down to, and it's so sad. I think it also comes down to greed and advantages. The only people that can necessarily balance the scale is the government, right? However, let's say your government start taxing billionaires. A billionaire would literally just move the headquarters. By the way, the main production and everything still goes on in that country, but if you move the headquarters to because billionaires are kind of like a nation on their own, they will just move to another nation that enables them to not pay tax. But because the whole world can come into some form of agreement, and by the way, if he moves to that other country, it benefits the country a little bit, just a tiny bit, right? But it doesn't really do much for them. But because they will take that tiny bit, your country not only will you lose your billionaire, which is also like a nation, but you would also lose the benefit. You would also now lose to another country will now gain that advantage of having that kind of that kind of resources. Yeah. So it's a thing of like, if people can't come together, this kind of issue, and by the way, they probably don't want people to come together, so they're probably working hard for that not to even happen. Like if you're a billionaire, and that is why I always find the life of billionaires kind of funny, because if something that is happening across the world is affecting your business here, there is a form of manipulation that we have to in whether you like it or not, we have to come into your life. You will have to cease. If something in Japan is affecting you in Kentucky, and it has nothing to even do with your company, but it's the stock exchange. Like people are reacting to a chain of events going on. You will inevitably come into a situation where you want to have more control of your money. Hence, you will now start diving into controlling of government. Does that make sense? You will start dipping your toes into other things to kind of wrestle some form of control. And that's even when things now becomes even more dangerous for your average person.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And I think when it comes to the whole issue of, I just want to touch on taxing billionaires, because I know that that's a lot of things that people say, like, oh, we should just tax the billionaires. The only way that tax will work, just to reinforce your point, Ayo, is if all the countries in the world agree to do it. Yeah. So that there is no way for a billionaire to escape. But these are the risks. Say, for example, everyone in the world agreed, okay, we're now going to tax billionaires. There's an argument out there that if you do that, you're going to discourage people from implementing ideas that will also lead to the betterment of other people. Because like we've said, say, for example, I'm just going to use this as a random example. Say Amazon did not exist, right? There are a lot of jobs that Amazon has provided by way of it just existing. Is there a substitute Amazon that would be better that we could put in that place? If we cannot come up with that, and obviously you can't ask government to come up with that because that's too much market interference, then chances are you just want to keep Amazon. That's the reality. Because you think about all the jobs that will be lost, all the infrastructure that has been built because of Amazon. Like, you think of all of those things. So countries around the world would also be like, we don't want to discourage people from starting their own Amazon. But now, if you were like, okay, we're going to tax billionaires in our own country because we are ethical and blah, blah, blah. It's just what Aya said. That billionaire is just going to move their money elsewhere and start their own thing there. And they're actually a better benefit to the country that they move to, even if it's not a lot, even if it's just marginal. The idea still is that company benefits from either like a social advantage of some sort, in the sense that, oh, we have this company that's embedded here and it allows them to negotiate better in other things, and then there's money that stays in their country, which for them is good. So I'm not really sure there's any way to solve the issue of billionaires, but yeah.
One thing I would say is
I
that
think I think
since we are not, if you are taxing billionaires but not limiting billionaires, and there is still a limit. It's like a, I think of it like the NBA. The NBA has a bunch of caps that they put on their teams. Like there's a payment structure in the NBA where if you go above a particular limit, each team gets the same. Each team gets like a fair playing ground, right? And there's a tax. So if you go above a particular amount, you get you reach a cap. If you go above it, you get your first apron. Your first apron, there's a certain amount of a tax that you have to pay for that, and a certain amount of punishment you have to pay for that. And then when you get to above your second apron, the tax and the punishment increases in a way. And then if you the higher you keep going, the worse it gets, right? Now, what we are doing isn't even that. That's not even what we're asking for. All we're asking for is that you just pay a proportion similar, and it's not even like it's not going to be the amount that regular people pay. It's just going to, yes, it's a lot of money,
Yeah.
but it's not. But to you, it's not going to be. It is, and that's why I said it all stems from human greed in a way, right? It's so funny because the amount of money that they are paying, they are probably going to make that money back, and it's so funny because if you think about it, right? If you are paying back the government that kind of money, and the government, in the perfect world, if the government takes that money and that money is now put back into the people, at the end of the day, you will reap the benefit of it. But because we are also short-sighted and so greedy, in a way, we cannot allow, because we won't that benefit, because we can't see that becoming a benefit to us immediately, we say no. It's kind of funny how that works, right? Isn't it?
Yeah.
People now, and people
I
use.
agree. No, I think they should pay more taxes for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, but they won't. And it's so funny how people even use like charity to make money and to not even pay, like, because charity in a way is not to pay bills. I mean, it's not to pay taxes. If the more charity work you do, the less your taxes. But people now use charity to make money into their company, because I know that for a fact that Bill Gates did this. I just imagine, and it's not like he did it alone. He got investment into it, like people pay into the charity, and they were using it, so they were hiring people in a way because they were using their charity to create work for people, but the people were really just working for their companies. It's like human greed knows no bound, and I think in a way it's almost like that greediness, you need the greediness, but since you can't limit greediness in a way, the system is so messed up. It's actually quite funny.
No, because you can't limit greed, you have to have systems in place that protect the people who work in these kinds of organizations. Because I will always remember that with Amazon, people were talking about how they couldn't even go and pee because they were working in the warehouse. Like, they couldn't go on toilet breaks. They were not getting paid well enough. They didn't have like lunch breaks that they could take. Like, there was a whole lot that was wrong. So these people were basically working around the clock while potentially the CEO or COO was earning 500 times what they were earning.
And
so that's where government intervention should come.
They will tell you they're not even taking salaries.
People less than this.
Like, Elon will be like, people online will tell you Elon hasn't even taken salaries for years. But like, don't say it like in a way where you don't say it like that, because your average person will be like, he doesn't even make that has never stopped him from doing whatever he wants to buy. Like, don't let people, like, the reason he does it is for two reasons. He does it for tax and to make more money. Because if he's not taking salary, he uses it as dividends to buy more shares in his own companies. So he's making more money and he's still buying whatever. It's not like that has ever stopped him from buying. It's not like he goes hungry. The way people say it is like, but he hasn't even taken salary. Like, stop it. Let's not do this. Because all he does is he goes to the bank and the bank just gives him more money because he's too big to fail. It's a funny world that we live in.
Yeah, like you were gonna say something.
No, I think you guys have pretty much said it all. I think we need we need the smart guys to develop tax systems, or like the cap that I talked about, where we can capture some right? Maybe it's if it's maybe it's not the individuals you target, maybe it's the companies that you target, maybe so. But like a way to at least take. But my worry or my problem again is that this money, if we are taking it out from these guys, right? We take it from these guys and we put it into government. The I don't maybe because maybe it's
Is
my
government
background.
spending efficient?
Is government
Yeah.
being efficient with this money? I'm not saying like we also have to look. Let's not try and solve one problem and create another problem.
Yeah,
Where
that's the
that
big
that's
issue in my
also
opinion too.
that's my so
Yeah.
if these guys
Also,
are
I
making
want to
this
say
money,
something.
but they are in some way channeling it into more because they want to continue making more money and they're maybe trying to innovate
Yeah.
in another way. I'm not saying it's
Mm.
better, but government is not going to try and innovate. That's the
Can I
things is
can I say
Yeah,
corrupt.
something?
It's
that's
just
I think
corrupt,
that's
corrupt.
again
That's
that's the
that's my
big issue.
concern.
That's really sorry,
Can I?
I was just gonna say like that's really the big issue. So obviously government can find creative ways to spend that money. They could spend it in healthcare, they could invest in social programs, they could support, for example, vulnerable people in societies and things like that. But there's also like I think some people, especially people who are wealthy, always think of what they call a freeloader problem, because what they will the argument they will come up with is that, oh, okay, so we are, for example, the capitalists, we own these big organizations, we make all this money, we pay money to taxes, and then the government is using that money to care for people who don't want
To
to work.
work, and it's
So
not
you run
false.
into another,
It's not
yeah,
it's not
you run
false.
into
Not
another
it's not always
ideological
false.
issue there
I
where you're
agree.
like, okay, yeah,
And
it's not always false, like obviously sometimes it's true, but it's another ideological issue where you're like, okay, so how do we solve that?
and
Because you also don't want people to become, for example, sorry, I like say for example universal basic income, right, where
yeah.
everybody's like, that's where we're heading because of AI, all these tech companies will have to pay us, blah blah blah, that's all well and good, probably what will happen. But then you also don't want people to be at a point where they're like, because I have this universal basic income, I don't want to do anything else.
There's no point
Like,
working.
yeah, so I
One
think that's the argument some people would come up with. Obviously it's not always true, but yeah, there's
one thing
that
that
there.
Biola
Sorry,
said
Ayo.
was one thing that no, it's okay. This is just referring to one thing that Biola said. He said we should get all of the smart people to come up with an idea that we help the government take money or create caps and whatever from these billionaires. I will say this: if I'm a billionaire and I see the very smart person working at the government, I will just offer him more money than the government can never pay him, and human greed will kick in because
Yeah,
one.
I get you. This when we
that's
now
true.
talk of patriotism, where you are fighting for your
That
country, you are doing this for mankind. You will find now out of 10 people, 9 will fall. Actually, let me rephrase. Out of 100 people, 99 will fall. But that'll be one. That'll be
there'll be
one.
one.
That'll
There's
be
that
one.
one
That'll
person.
be one. I think that's my because you also don't want. I think they use the word freeloaders, and it's also a thing. But for me, I think that to be honest can be easily solved. Where before you get, you have to do. You have to show you're doing. I know people can try and beat the system, but in general, show you're doing before you get. If you're not doing anything, you can't get, kind of thing. So
Yeah. I was I,
wanted to say something.
I was having this conversation with someone yesterday. I don't want to mention the country specifically, but we're talking about how there are so many people who, for example, are homeless in certain parts of the world, right?
Yeah.
And these are in quote unquote wealthy countries. These people are homeless and sometimes they get benefits from the government. But then I started questioning, for example, why is it that you don't offer these people some of the jobs that you're expecting immigrants to come and do? So some of them would say, "Oh, we need immigrants to come and pick our fruits in the farms. We need them to come and clean the horse shit. We need them to come and do this and do that." I'm like, why is it that there are people in your community who are homeless and unemployed, but you don't put them to that kind of work and then let the government support that they're getting be that, right? Like, I'm not talking about disabled people who
No, no,
can't
no, no,
work.
no,
That's
no,
a
no, no.
different
Yeah, I get
conversation.
what the thing
I'm talking
is.
about able-bodied,
Yes,
clear-minded people who are just like unemployed
but
and are homeless, and
but
they're like, okay,
but
we get some kind of support from the government. So
ninety
we
percent
started
of
questioning
them,
it, and we didn't get to an
ninety
answer.
percent of
Yeah,
those people believe they are better than those jobs.
That's the
That's the
problem.
problem.
Like, how are you better than
Yeah.
you? How are you homeless and better than that
But
dog?
that's the thing. They still like. I mean, it's to be honest, it's not even a like. I don't. Again, I don't know. That even in countries in Africa, we see it where
Yeah,
someone,
true.
for example, it makes no sense to me how someone who did not finish high school is saying a medical doctor from another country is taking his job. How?
Well, he could have become a doctor.
He could have
Do
become
you
a
get
doctor if he
like?
wasn't there. That's what he's trying to say. You don't know how the cosmos
What
works. Don't you know
do
the butterfly effect? Don't
so
you know the butterfly effect?
there's
Because
that there's just
because
that
when he was
there's
busy being a doctor, he might have the butterfly effect of him being a doctor that decided he was going to come here ultimately. Not
uh,
that he even decided before he was born, no, stopped him from studying.
so
Then the problem is you're not thinking at like at the cosmic level. You're not thinking with the ability to see the future
and
and
that's
back.
fine.
That's your problem.
I'm not
Do better.
ability to see. Who am I? So, but I know this might sound controversial, but I like for example, the new China system, right?
Oh yeah, I
Where
don't
for
know about it.
example, a teacher, like if you get employed as a teacher now, teaching kids, and you are employed and you come in and you're in the hospital and you're a doctor, you guys are earning the same thing because it's not seen that like a teacher is less important than a doctor now, but
Oh, that's
there's still
interesting. So
room.
basically, keeping everyone on the same
Yeah,
page
like if you are
No, there's room
wherever
for doctors to make money, more money.
like but my point,
in China.
whatever skill you have, right? Like there's it's not one is not seen as more important as the other. Now how you now rise
Mm.
now depends on you, and then that's why I said new China, because now there's now room for you to be. Before it was tight to become a millionaire. Now you can, like, if you put in
Mm.
more stuff, you can then become a millionaire, and now they're even having billionaires, right? But the
I
fact
actually
that
really like that
one
idea.
one skill is not being so I like that. It has its again. There's no perfect system, but I like that. I genuinely
But
like that. Where
I can argue that
because honestly, the
I
person
can
raising
argue
your
that that
kids.
would
Mhm.
that can have
I
two
think
benefits though.
that could
That has
discourage people.
people exactly. I was about to say that that could prevent
Yeah,
people
go on,
from
Ayo.
pursuing like high-paying career jobs where it could be more beneficial to the society. Like less people might choose to become a doctor because of that. You get my point, right? Where previously being a doctor might have been
I hear
Yeah.
you,
motivation might have been
but
making
do
more money.
we do we do we need do we need wait one whether we like it or not, even if you see how everybody, let's use Nigeria for example, everybody wants to be an engineer, a doctor, or a lawyer. Is that really good?
Mm.
Is it and the reason why people are pushing for that is because
Mm.
it's not even a belief, is that if you get those if you get qualified in those skills, it's a quicker way to make
Fields,
money.
yeah,
If it was balanced,
yeah.
then people will go to teaching.
No,
There will
I
be
hear
people
you,
like you should go for it based on your passion and your
but
want,
I
not
will say
because
this
of
now. I will
money,
say
just
this now.
money. That's what
I will
happens now.
I will say this right. I will say this right. That system also has a way of kind of pushing people into or sorting people out in his own way. Where ultimately not everybody that says they want to become a doctor will become a doctor. You get my point, right? Now the issue with that is the society will be ultimately lacking in letting people find what they are really good at. I agree with you. Where the new China method might encourage people to find more things that they are really good at. But at the end of the day,
Yeah.
there are not everybody that said they wanted to become a doctor became a doctor. Otherwise, all we will have is a bunch of doctors, and all of us will be hungry, and there will be no teachers. So in a way, both systems in the it is the truth though. In a way, that system has a way of sending you back to where you are to to where you are supposed to be. It's kind of it's a messed up
I
world that we live in.
I
There's no
think
perfect
me
system in any situation.
personally, I've there's no perfect system. I believe the other system, the system where there's a premium put on certain skills, that just creates frustrated people. It just creates. It creates.
I,
Let's not go there.
but you don't know what this new system will do,
Because
though.
You know
Like, you
what?
haven't seen the repercussion of this new system. You
Here's my
haven't lived in
thing.
a world where that new system
Yeah.
has
I,
fully
I get
flourished.
it.
So you can't say that
I do
it will
get
not
it
create. It
that it
might
has its flaws.
ours might create a frustrated system, but it just might create a system where people are just extremely depressed. We don't know. It could just be a repercussion of that. Demotivated,
Can
depressed,
I
and
say?
stuff. Continue.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I was going to say that that system, it's like the one child policy that China implemented years ago,
It
right?
seems
They
like a
didn't
good
know that
idea
it would come
then.
to a point where
It's
they'll
Yeah.
start trying to find wives. Yeah, they'll start trying to find wives for all the men that are just now hanging around in the villages in China with nobody to marry them. So, like, policies take a long time before you can
can
see
say
their
I
impact. And
agree.
that's why you always have
And
to think of
and now
what
China
are
is
the
rolling back their
unintended
one
consequences
child
of
side
this
policy.
policy.
That they're rolling back that
This,
policy now. The one child policy, they're running it back, like trying to find people to have more kids.
yeah,
Now people don't want to.
yeah, this current system, the one we have now, in my opinion, even though it might create frustrated people because you want to be at a certain skill level and you don't have it, my argument is that regardless of the skill level people are at, everyone should earn at least a livable wage.
Yeah,
That's
Yes.
my argument.
I agree.
Minimum of the minimum salary you can earn in any city, any country should be enough to allow you to get a home with a roof over your head, to be able to feed yourself, clothe yourself, and to have access to the right amenities. So
Okay.
maybe it's public transport that you need to get to work or something. That's the minimum.
Can I
Then if
play
you're like
devil's
a
advocate?
higher skill level, you're obviously living
Better.
better than
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
But the people who don't have the skills you have or the education level you have are also not on the streets.
Can
It's
I
when I see people on the streets, people who are, clear minded, have the right abilities, just hanging out on
can,
the street because they genuinely cannot afford a place. That's what gets to me. Or
can
people who
I
they can afford rent, but they can't buy food. I'm
can I
like, how
rebuttal?
does this add up?
Can I rebuttal what you said? Let's take a teacher for an example, right? In, let's say, in any U.S. country, in any generally teachers are known to be paid less in certain U.S. States, even around the world, not only in the U.S. but around the world. Their arguments by their local system will be like, we pay you, if you are going by that logic of yours, we pay you enough for you to have a house and for you to have a what do you call it, for you to have food and stuff.
Are you
The
sure?
issue now would be, what is the quality?
That's not
No,
always
no,
true.
that would no. What I'm saying is, if they go by the basic salary that they give them, it will be enough for you to have a house and stuff. Now, the quality of the life that you are living is what is in question, and that now will be now that now
Ayo,
will now be the
Yeah.
debate and the issue.
I want to counter. No, so I saw there's a survey I saw that like in the 60s, 70s, even in the 80s in the US, for example, the people who worked in McDonald's, like it was normal to be in school, right? When I say school, I mean university, and during your break, you work during the summer, and the money you make in the summer is enough, maybe not to pay all your fees, but it's a sizable chunk. That is gone now, right? There are people now who are working three, four jobs just to be bare minimum. They are not even living
Can I say
extravagant,
something?
just bare minimum. And
Can I say
that's where the
something?
system is
Can I say
broken,
something?
right? Where Demi is now
Can I say
talking
something?
about,
Right?
like, if you're working now, yeah,
Can I say something? First things first. If I am the person who's, if I'm the owner of McDonald's and I'm now arguing against you, if I'm the government, right? I'll be like, first things first. If you look at the salary, you realize the salary hasn't decreased. What will now be is that inflation has gone up. The government can't keep up with inflation. One,
yeah,
two, the salary, the amount, the fees that you pay is significantly higher than what was being required back in those days. Again, I'm not saying I agree with you.
yeah.
I'm saying where the arguments will come into play and where people can easily can get away with it will be,
But
it's not like we're not paying you enough, is that the
Inflation
quality
affects
of
prices of
life.
things. Yes,
yeah,
No,
no, no, you get my point.
that's
Like
where
if I,
we
if I, if I,
differ.
if I, again, it's not again. I agree with D on what this like. Ultimately, is the question is, do I want what D was saying? I agree with her. I'm saying the issue here is that if I am to argue against this idea, is I will just is the way you came up with something that people
Ayo,
will, yeah, no, go on,
can I argue against that?
of course,
So even though we say that inflate, and you're right, like inflation has come in, and like inflation has gone way higher, and people's salaries have not reduced. But for a long time, people's salaries stayed the same, even though inflation was climbing,
yes,
and CEO top management
Was
salaries
going up.
went up. So that's the question then, that how is it that it's okay for you being COO, you know that inflation is keeping up with your pay, so you keep increasing your own pay, but you don't increase the pay of the people who
If
work for you.
everybody's pay was
That's the issue.
increasing,
That's why
inflation.
people
the
don't
patient.
have exactly being pace, people would be okay.
Again, we've all agreed that the CEOs won't do anything. I'm talking about the government in this situation. I'm talking again. How if I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm saying the argument that they will bring forth is that the amount we pay you is ideally enough for you to get rent and for you to have food. They don't take into situation how many mouths you have to feed. You get my point, right? Like like the argument that they
Yeah.
would make is we do not care about the quality of your like. It's not like they won't say it that way, but that's essentially what they are saying. The
Yeah.
quality of life that you are choosing to live, we don't care. What we are
Yeah.
paying you is enough for you to cover yourself. You get my point,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that is the issue, and that will always be their argument to counter
Yeah.
what to bring forward. Now the thing is, the
I
situation is like
think
if we
Yeah.
cannot all agree on a basic like a basic and a basic what do you call it, quality of life that everybody should have. And, and one of the reasons why we can't do that is each state has different laws because each people from each state have different things that they prioritize, have different quality of life, have different. You get my point? Like if we are LA
Yeah.
will not have the same LA will not value the same thing. Like you know how California has one of some of the most ridiculous. I wouldn't say ridiculous. Like just the way they will content, like how you can do certain things in California, but you can do it in other houses. I remember this guy, he was getting divorced, and he's a comedian. He was getting divorced, and he talked about how they have two homes. They have one home in California. I think they have one in another part of the country in America. And he said he doesn't want to get divorced in California because of some of the laws that comes with getting divorced in California. So he was dodging the, you know how in America you have to get served for that, for you to legally be
Mm-hmm.
bind by that. I was dodging, he hired two people to start dodging that whole process. And how he will change he will have, he's a comedian, right? So he has to go to stage and they have to advertise his name. And the issue now with that is that people can sometimes track him through that particular avenue. And now he now has to run and create fake names and stuff just to be able to make a living with, while also, and he's even blaming his ex-wife for not recognizing that even she will be screwed by the laws in Cali. You get my point, right? That's what I need to say. But the wife will argue, I can make more money from getting divorced in Cali compared to getting divorced back in where we were coming from. So because of that situation, because even people can't even agree on where they are getting divorced. Now imagine trying to get a whole bunch of people to agree on what quality of life would be. And that division will be the biggest obstacle to creating that kind of society. It's not even the government will just have to argue it, and the people will just like, you know my point. So if that's what I'm trying to say. And again, it's not that I don't agree with you, but that obstacle will now come into play, and that will be
Yeah.
the biggest issue.
Yeah. Fun
Uh,
times. It's a wicked problem, like we
it
Yeah,
say.
is,
yeah,
and
yeah.
I feel, and
I get it that the solution is not just in quote increasing money or giving people money. That's not it. Or just saying, hey, but they have
that's not going to solve
what's
the
happening
yeah.
now is the system is broken. We have to solve it, Yeah, and it's not just by giving people money because, for example, I know like a lot of people in the US, for example, when COVID hit, people were giving money and people used that money to buy sneakers
Inflation.
and it just cost inflation.
It's yeah, no, the reality is generally, I think, because it hasn't kept in lockstep over the years. If you're trying to rectify it all
But
of a
just,
sudden, you
no,
might see a bit of a spike on the
you
inflation side,
just,
right?
you will
Because
make the problem worse.
it would be yeah. So it's kind of that. I think that's why it's become a problem that people cannot really don't know how to grapple with, and it's just
There,
something
I
we're not.
think it
I'll
has to
just leave it
be,
with. Like I meet people who are like, oh, I'm working full time, but as a family, like, do you know Habitat for Humanity?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah, yeah,
it's like a non-profit. They'll
yeah.
go around building houses for people. Do you know? I saw an article recently where they were like, if you earn below 135K a year as a family in Canada, they are willing to help you build your house. I'm like, imagine being at one hundred and thirty-five
And that's
thousand
not enough.
dollars a
Or
year
134.
as a
Let's go
family,
134.
and that's
And
not
that's not
enough.
enough.
Like, do you know how mad that is? So it's just obviously the prices of things have climbed up significantly.
Yeah.
So the inflation has been crazy. That if before people used to be like, "Oh, I just want to be earning 100K," and that was the target. Like if you're earning 100K, you
You're
were
good.
good. Now you're earning 135K, and Habitat for Humanity is knocking on your
Saying
door,
we
being
can
like,
help you.
"Please,
We
man,
can
let's
help
help
you.
you." Oh,
I would
that
take the
really
help.
spun me. I was so shocked.
We
No, no, I wasn't presenting a solution. I was gonna say all we did is present a bunch of issues. We don't have a solution, but well, we are not the smartest people in the world. And
no.
unfortunately, some of the smartest people in the world have been hired by some of the richest people in the world. So if you are somebody who can fight against greed, and hopefully you also don't get assassinated in the process, please come up with a solution for a better world. It's just that simple.
Um the system, the way the system is built in a way that government, and when I say government, specifically legislation or legislature is supposed to counter this. However, with lobbying and because it's still human beings in legislature, unfortunately, I don't even want to go to the Nigerian scenario. Let's not even go to that one. Let's just speak
No,
on like the
we
That's
are
US
just
talking
where
with a,
bonkering
we
madness.
are talking
people
about
because
a system where at least there's
so even like in the US now, because I have interest, I'm in God. Let's put all of them together. The greedy people, right? We'll come together and make sure that we make this legislator do this, and we just give him money for campaign, right? And that's where the people who are supposed to speak for the people, are speaking for the greedy ones, and that's just where we are now, unfortunately. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's a crude world out there, people. It's a crude world out there.
don't be
But
poor.
it is what it is.
Yeah.
That's this. Don't be poor.
Better still.
But then back to the question before we wrap up. Do you believe that truly people have shifted from worshiping wealthy people? Because
Um,
I don't think so.
This is what I
I
will
think
say.
more
This is what I
people
will say.
as I think more
Okay.
people are seeing it,
Are
but
you finished?
I don't
Yeah.
necessarily think I think more people as I think the society has I think it has shifted a bit. Not a lot. I think it has shifted a bit. Because there's still a lot of praises for people like Elon online, like your people still worship Apple like Apple is like the way the Apple thing is quite interesting to me because people you see people like worshiping Apple like Apple is paying them to actually use their product, not the other way around. But I just like in a way it's almost like it's like rich people still have their followers, but I feel like the world is less receptive towards a certain level of greed, mostly because, but also people still feel powerless. There's still a lot of people that still feel powerless. And one of the biggest lies that is ever told is the harder you work, the more money you make. That's one of the biggest lies ever told. I'm not saying that there is no correlation between hard work and making money, but there's this idea that people tell you if you work super hard, you can be a billionaire one day, and that's a lie. I don't think that's the way. That's not the reality of the world. I think there's a lot of factors that goes into people becoming that rich, and people would, and you waking up at 6 a.m. supposedly grinding, which I don't really know how you do it. But I'm not. Everybody has their own method of doing it. Won't make you a billionaire by the time you are 35. I think a lot of it comes with having the right opportunities, having a lot of luck. Obviously, hard work comes into play, but let's not pretend like hard work is the only thing. Like if you wash enough shoes, you become a billionaire by the time you're 35. If you don't sleep, you keep washing shoes at night, that is gonna be no, that's a lie. Because a lot more people
You'll
work
fall
harder
sick.
than the people that are really billionaires. You will literally die. So these are that I only I have been able to make more days out of the days that I have. I go to sleep at 8 and I wake up at 10. And while you were
Oh my
sleeping,
god, did you guys
I
see
have
that
had
video?
I have had more days in my week.
Ayo,
In fact, I
You
have
know
Ayo,
had
that
Ayo, this
three
video
is
weeks
of
how
in
that
one
this is
week.
man
summary.
that said,
Ayo, I have cracked time. I have cracked time.
yeah, that's what he said. I've cracked time.
All of you are using 24
Like
My
hours.
my day, my
One
first day
day, you're
is
having
from
24
12 to
hours in
8
one
a.m.
day.
Oh my
I
god, that
do
was so
48.
funny.
Some days I do 72 in one day. Come on, I crack time.
yeah,
Oh god,
I'm
that's
waking
so
up at
funny.
2 a.m.
That's
I'm waking up at
hilarious.
2 a.m. And I
I
started my
crack
day at
time.
2 a.m.
Anyway,
While you are still sleeping.
this is what this is what I want to say about the whole thing. Biola, I know you want to say something, but I just want to say that I think that yes, people's attitudes towards the wealthy have shifted. I think the wealthy themselves have also shifted their behavior. Like before, people who were wealthy, I think, tried to stay low key, especially if you're a
Yeah.
billionaire. And now you can see like someone like Mark Zuckerberg, I stopped walking around town, right? Like with all of
Mm.
his diamonds and everything. Like things have changed. What I also think is that the wealthy have recognized that people's attitudes towards them are shifting. So what they are doing is becoming influencers on TikTok.
Yeah.
Because a lot of those people you're watching, those people with the fancy bags, the blah 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 influencing people, sometimes I'm like, if you have all of this money, why are you spending your time on TikTok? Like that's what my mind thinks, right? Like why aren't you spending your time with other things, like doing other things, like
Yeah.
your hobbies, just enjoying yourself. Like, because the stress of recording your life, I've tried to do it once because I was like, let me see what this is like. The stress of like putting your phone down, doing this, doing that, all for
Demi,
likes and comments
you
on
are not a
TikTok.
millionaire. You are not
I
a billionaire.
I did
You get
not.
a team.
No, but wait, I could not understand it. And then I realized that perhaps this is how they get people to be
It's
more
about
accepting
images.
of them.
It's about
In
images.
this shift,
Of course.
yeah, in this shift that's happening, if I'm coming across as I am so sweet, I am so pleasant, I'm wealthy, but that's not the
I'm
real
like
thing I want
you.
you to know
I'm
about
like
me.
you,
People
essentially.
are more accepting, exactly. People are more accepting of that kind of wealth, and you
And that's
start
yeah.
seeing videos on TikTok where they're like, "Oh, this person knows how to rich right," and I'm like, what is happening? Because the exact person who's saying that will go on another video to yell at Jeff Bezos and be like, he's an unethical billionaire. But the girl you just commented on is carrying a handbag that's worth your annual salary. And she's busy telling you about how, like, please add it together. So I feel like they're using influencing in a good way for themselves. They're
Yeah.
positioning themselves as I'm
It's
just like everybody else, or like I'm an aspirational thing. You can be like me too.
it
If
reminds
you
me
just
of
follow my
Saudi
advice,
money in
they'll give you
football.
life advice.
It just reminds
So
me of
Yeah,
Saudi
so
money
it's
in
to me
football.
it's like that. So it's
It is
quite
what
weird.
it's sport washing, but
Yeah.
what I
on
wanted to
social
say
media.
was,
Uh,
yeah, is
Yeah, Bella.
um wealth is now being like, of course you are on some level successful, right? But people are now associating wealthy people to be role models, and they are not. So I think that's what causes they set
mm.
expectations, and then some people get disappointed by those expectations, and then there's resentment. While some people are hoping that when I get to that point, I will also do my own and get away with like, yeah. But
B
you're also right,
B
Demi, about
B.
Yeah.
the
And the
them
worst part of
influencing
it,
now.
man. And the worst part of it is
Yeah,
if
Yeah.
you don't now agree with those people that have billionaires as their role model, they say that you lack ambition. They
you,
say you
yeah,
they say you don't want to be rich. They say you bruh, people. the way people will go out for
Not
billionaires that
just
they
lack
don't know.
ambition.
Like it's going
If a wealthy person says this, it ultimately or it means it must be right. Just because it's coming from a
yes,
wealthy,
yes.
successful person doesn't mean that it is right. Like it's
Right?
okay. They are human too. It's fine. I get it. They have enough money
Yeah.
Guys,
for
it's
10
fine. It's
generations.
fine.
I get it. But they can be wrong
Yes,
too.
it's fine.
It's okay.
Let them. They can be wrong too.
Fun,
So yeah.
fun times. Fun times.
But anyway,
Guys,
please,
by the way,
This was fun.
does I think let
if
me
any
ask
of
this
you guys
question. Let me
do
ask this
become
question.
billionaires now,
Is it do you want to be a billionaire?
Who, me?
yes,
Yes.
they're asking all of both of us.
No.
Mm-hmm.
No. Because I think that beyond a certain amount of money, your quality of life does not get better.
Okay.
Especially guess what?
Ayo.
So
But
I
All
feel
right.
like
Let me finish.
okay,
if I made a
so
certain amount of money in the millions, sorry, Ayo, if I made a
no,
certain amount of money in the millions, I am okay with that.
Okay.
I feel like when you start targeting, like getting to a billion is not
It's not
like
business.
it's not easy. We're talking about like 100 million, 200 million, 300, like you're going all the way there. And I'm like, I don't know that I want to do that.
Okay.
I'm okay with being a millionaire.
Okay. All
okay,
right.
so when I think
Ayo.
about being a billionaire, right? When I think about being a billionaire, right? So when I think about being a billionaire, there are several ways of becoming a billionaire. And by several ways, I'm not really talking about like avenues for you. I'm talking about like basic. Let's say you sell a company that you are working on and you become a billionaire through that method. That I kind of
Mm,
like. However, if you
yeah,
are working actively
yeah,
to
yeah.
become a billionaire, there's a problem that I do not. This my biggest issue with it is if there is a strike in Azerbaijan and it's affecting my sleep. Me that I'm sleeping in a very luxurious house here. That's because a problem for my billionaire. Like I can't take that. So you see my problem, right? It's like
Yeah.
I and this and the thing is, if let's say you have $100 million, right? There's yes on a truly on a surface level, right? There's you are not wanting for anything on the surface level. However, however,
Mm-hmm.
there are still certain things that you cannot sit in the same chair that someone like Elon Musk is sitting. Like, there are levels to it, obviously. The truth is, do you also want to sit in the same chair that Elon is sitting? If somebody offers me $1 billion, will I take it? Yes. However, I feel like there's a certain amount of money that I will work towards. And when I get there, my generation, you see, the thing
You
another story about
relax.
is generation of it's my kids. It's the generation of my kids after my kids. At the same time, I'm like, you people are stupid. If you cannot also make the money that I made, go sit down and go work out too, and do the thing that I did. It's that simple. But
Okay.
I think it's a balancing act. It's a balancing act of the truth is none of us really know. Because once you become that stage, I feel like you also kind of feel like I can keep going. And I think that's the problem. Is that idea of I can keep you now start realizing that there is no limit to you really. And that becomes an issue.
But yeah, no, I agree with that. So let me just let me phrase this differently. If I became a millionaire and just by the natural occurrence of things, like maybe for example, I became a millionaire by holding stock in a
I
very
want to.
valuable
Are you
company,
speaking of
and so
millionaire
now
or
I'm worth
billionaire?
millions, and
Just to
that
be sure.
stock
Billionaire or millionaire? Millionaire.
millionaire.
Okay.
No, no, if I became a
All right.
millionaire,
Okay.
millionaire still. And just by the natural occurrence of things growing, getting better, or some investment, I ended up in billionaire
Okay.
status. I would be okay with that. But me sitting down after, say, for example, making 100 million and asking myself, how do I make this 100 million 1 billion? No,
Okay.
I'm not gonna do that. I am going to go out and enjoy my life. I will go and live in a village in France and do French immersion for
Okay.
six
I get
months.
you.
I
I
will
get
learn
you.
how to
To be
paint.
fair though, to be
I
fair,
will go, I will
to
hike
be
on the
fair,
best teams in the world.
to
That's
be
what
fair,
I would
if
do.